Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final live Q&A from the summit. So I have another group of awesome presenters lined up here to answer your questions, and I have received quite a few questions that have come through, and which is fantastic, and we'll get to answering all of those. And if you manage to show up live today and have further questions, please just post them in the comments, and if we get time to answer them, we will. So we're almost, yes, as I said, the final live Q&A. We are still waiting with bated breath for Kimberly Peden presentation to come in. As I said, that will definitely come in. As soon as that comes in, I will let you all know. And whether you've purchased the replay or not, or just had access to the free summit, you will get access to that, which is very exciting. So keep the conversation going. Stay in the group. Of course, the presenters are going to use it to let you know when exciting things come up. But of course, post your questions. Keep it going as a thriving community. And yeah, let's just keep it growing. I'm really excited that it's become such a great platform for everyone to share. So anyway, enough of me. I'm going to bring in our awesome presenters. So here we have Helen Marshall and Leah Williamson and Kelly Hodges. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Tracy. Hi, everyone.
So we did have Brenda lined up to join us as well, but not sure where she is. If she joins us partway through, I'll bring her into the stream. And there was someone who had a question for Brenda, so I'm sure she will respond in the comments below when she gets a chance to. But to start with, I would love to ask each of you, what was your particular highlight of the summit? So Helen, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say a massive thank you and congratulations to you, Tracy, for pulling off something which I could never in my wildest dreams even achieve. And you've pulled this together. You've created a community. You've brought in amazing speakers. And the thing I found so impressive about it was just how comprehensive it was. It was so easy to see who was speaking and to watch what you wanted to watch. And I've heard a lot from the community of people who'd fallen off the wagon and then had been so re-inspired by watching all of the different presentations that they've now fully committed to this way of life forever after. And so I think just an amazing inspirational reset for a lot of people, and well done to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Helen. Leah, what was yours?
Yeah, well, I want to echo everything that Helen said. She said it so perfectly, and it was really good. I'm a big part of the Australian low carb community, always at various events and things like that. But what I really loved about this one was there was just so many great quality speakers that everybody can access, rather than just having to go to a certain location and being there for that particular time or watching it later. This was like we were all together, but over that weekend, but we could do it all from the comfort of our home. So I think that was a really good aspect of it, and just having that community feel in the group with everything like that. And I just enjoyed watching the presentations myself. I love the girls from Have Butter Will Travel. I love Dan and Erica. I see them at every conference I go to. So for me, it was like, oh, look, we're back on the conference circuit again. This is fun. And they just always have such great practical advice. And yeah, I really love them. And they have such a great community. They've started up themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly, I'm going to come back to you because Brenda's just joined us, so I'm just going to bring her in. Here she is. Hi, Brenda.
I'm so sorry. I just was all set, and the guys upstairs have just completely demolished the ceiling in my kitchen. And I've got no internet. So I'm just on my veranda on the phone. We'll get it sorted. Don't worry. We'll get it sorted.
Oh, your staff are still showing up. Well, we've just gone live. We're just doing the introduction, so you haven't missed anything.
Great. Well, I felt like I really had to make a concerted effort because the question was a doozy.
It was. Yeah. So I'm glad you're here to answer it. Awesome. Well, Kelly, I'll just ask you. I'm just asking each of the presenters what their overall highlight was of the summit. So, Kelly, what was yours?
Well, of course, what the other two have said, and also all the other presenters from before, what they've all said about just being able to bring this together is amazing. But I think for me, the standout would really be what did you call it, the accessibility of it, where we're able to reach such a wide audience because it's online and because it was free access for that period of time. Like, we're able to reach so many people, as opposed to saying everybody travel to the Gold Coast, pay X amount of fee on this particular weekend. Like, it's just so widely accessible, and I think it's so important to have that, just because it puts the knowledge out there to people who would otherwise miss out because they've got the kids' soccer games that weekend, or because they're unable to get to the Gold Coast, or wherever it might be. So there's so many, I think, barriers that we're able to be knocked down by doing it online, giving everyone that 30 hours access, and then for a really low cost now to have access to the presentations again and again and again and again. I think that's actually, like, yeah, it's just amazing. So that would be my standout point.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. And Brenda?
Yeah, honestly, I've got to just reiterate what Kelly said. I just thought, Trace, it was absolutely fantastic. All the presenters were knockouts. Helen, you're sitting above me. I loved yours. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. But, you know, when Kelly mentioned the Gold Coast, like, I literally dragged my daughter to the Gold Coast, kicking and screaming. She didn't want to know anything about it. And to be perfectly honest, with the cost, accommodation, airfares, the whole thing, it was a big deal, and it wasn't exactly a fun holiday. So, well, not from her point of view anyway, but it opened up a whole new world for her. But having all this available, like, over the period, in the comfort of your own home, I feel like it was just a game changer. For a lot of people, especially the girls that I need to get through to, because they're younger and they don't have the funds to be able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. And who would have thought, you know, COVID would happen? Because I know the planning for all this happened before that, and I think it was just so fortuitous too that we were already onto it and doing it. And I don't know, that if I've quite come down really from it. Was having dinner last night, and you know, it still sort of hit me like, wow, we did do that. We did organise that, because I think it's kind of like, you know, someone said to you, or you could organise something like that, and you'd be like, oh, no way, you know, you couldn't do it. But I suppose, you know, like we talk about Helen, you know, when you break it down and you just take one step at a time, you know, I think, you know, anything is possible. And yeah, look, I don't know if I'll ever beat it. I think it was just one of those out of the box, and hopefully we'll all come back and do it again next year, because I think, why not?
For sure.
A lot of fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome.
I think
All
it's
right,
just the beginning, Tracy.
Yes. Yes, I think you're right. You know, I think it has opened up a whole new world. I suppose I've always been a big picture person, but I've always kind of maybe not listened to it. Or, you know, I always told myself those stories that, oh, you can't do that, or that's a bit scary, or, you know, I think you can do it. And look out. Let's just keep going. All right.
Yeah.
So the questions. So I had a question come through, and this was addressed to both Kelly and Leah. So Kelly, maybe if you want to answer this one first. And it's actually not the typical question we get, but a lady wrote and talked about her teenage son who's 19, and he's very, very thin, and she has a lot of concerns around him actually gaining weight. As opposed to most of us who are trying to lose weight. But she would like her son to gain weight, and she wondered if you had any thoughts on, you know, obviously we can't go down specific advice here, but just some general thoughts on how, you know, teenage boys might be able to gain a bit of weight.
Okay, cool. I really, really like that question, because, like you say, it's not your typical question. It is very much kind of the opposite of what most people move towards a low carb for. So that is an awesome question. When it comes to gaining weight or his current weight, I guess you have to look at, first of all, why is he his current weight? And so it might be because he doesn't enjoy the meals that are prepared for him at home. It might be because he's too busy to actually be eating. It might be that he's so active that he's not meeting his nutritional requirements to replenish his stores that he's actually needing. It could be, I don't know if he's living at home or out of home, but he may actually just not have the funds, being a youngster, not have the funds to eat properly, whatever it might be. So there's lots of reasons why he could be in a place where he's needing to gain weight. So I think obviously first and foremost, you have to consider the reason why and then work with them from there. But let's just assume all is well, and he just needs to gain a little bit of weight through like a real food approach. What I would then do is I would look at convenient foods. I would look at like ready prepared foods. I would pretty much make the foods, I'd ensure that there's food accessible to him that he enjoys, first of all. And so if it's having leftovers left in the fridge so that he's able to quickly go to the fridge and grab it as opposed to having to prep it. If it's kind of the ready-to-go snacks, and whether that's packet snacks or homemade snacks that the family's made or that he's made, or so something quick and easy like biltong or peanut butter or a handful of nuts or something, but where he can just quickly grab some snacks, eat, and then continue on. Because I think for boys, a little bit stereotypical, but it is the whole preparation. I don't want to be in the kitchen. I don't want to be preparing food. And so it's kind of knocking down that barrier and just making sure that the food is available to him. And then also just maybe it could be a matter of teaching him some easy to prepare options as well, and then like fortifying those foods. So for example, an easy to prepare option could be something as simple as scrambled eggs. But then it would be when he's scrambling the eggs, adding in the extra butter, serving it with the avocado. So just adding in the extra bits and pieces around there. I guess the one last thing that I consider is the nutritional adequacy of what he's currently consuming. If anyone's not consuming adequate nutrients and they're wanting weight loss or weight gain or just getting to the equilibrium weight that they should be at, are they consuming the right nutrients for their requirements? So you may find for him, he may be following a low carb sort of approach already, but you may find, you know what, he's actually really low in protein, or he doesn't have enough of a certain vitamin, and that's going to play its impact as well. So just kind of making sure that he's reaching baseline recommendations, and then once he is making the food easy to access, delicious foods that he enjoys, that he can just kind of pick up and go. And so that, I guess, in a roundabout way, that's what I would have a look at. Well, what about you, Leah?
Well, I agree with what you've said. And the only thing I'd probably add is maybe getting some protein shakes in. So getting him to make up some of those. So some 100% grass-fed whey, and then building whatever into that. So like I like to sneak things into the smoothie. So you might want to put some steamed cauliflower into that, or some steamed zucchini or something like that, or that kind of veggies into there to get a bit of extra kind of greens or vegetable nutrients into it, and then maybe some wild blueberries or something just to get that extra bit of sweetness, and then maybe some cacao or something like that to just give it a chocolatey kind of taste, so he feels like he's having a chocolate milkshake. But I think for that age group around 19, protein shakes are pretty cool. So if you can teach him to make some really clean ingredient protein shakes and just sip on those kind of throughout the day to add a little bit of extra kind of calories into what he's having and a bit of extra protein, I think that will give him a good boost as well.
Yeah, I found that question really interesting because I have an 18-year-old son who's 6'4" and quite lean. I mean, you would look at him and he's tall and thin, yet I know what this boy eats, and he will have bacon and eggs and a shake every morning, plus he has he'll have real, those real hot dogs or meat for lunch, plus, cheese, and, he's eating so much protein and fat, yet, he's still really, really lean. So I think there's probably an element of genetics in there too. And it just, as long as I sort of think as long as they're healthy, they're still thriving, there's probably an element that we can't control around all of that as well. Do you think, or is that, because I just thought this question was really relevant to my, my boy as well.
Yeah, and you'd probably find lots of people would be able to relate to this question as well, and even the males who are watching this who are also on that bandwagon, because lots of people, they move, even if they weren't low carb before, but they move towards a lower carb, and some people find that their frame is quite slim, and a lot of guys, they want their frame to be a lot bigger, and so it could also be having a look at the exercise that they're doing and doing muscle building exercise as well. But the other thing, when you were just talking before that, I thought of is low carb obviously is amazing, but also real food is amazing. And so for some people, if they are wanting to gain weight, we know that carbs do help to put on weight. And so if you are wanting to put on weight, you could also just have a look at something like some sweet potato, like adding some sweet potato, or making use of the banana as opposed to berries, like making use of a little bit of carbohydrate, because at the end of the day, if that's going to make you feel better about yourself or help you to put on the weight that you're wanting to put on, then you need to use it to your advantage as well. So making use of real food options could also be something that they may want to have a look at.
Yeah. And I definitely think the weight training is important. I remember used to say to some of my clients, you can't just drink the shake and the muscles grow. You have to, you've got to work the muscles too. And I think that's, sometimes something that teenagers, may not. Yeah. So there's a lot of factors. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Helen, the question that came through for you was, I found your summer talk inspiring. I think a lot of people did, and would love to actually do something like what you've done. What are some of the biggest learnings that you've had since starting Primal Alternatives?
Okay, so this is a great question, and I'm assuming, and I'll maybe just get you to clarify this, Tracy. So this person is wanting to create a license themselves as opposed to become a producer?
I don't know.
What do you reckon, guys?
I would think, I don't know if it's like that they want to do exactly what you've done, but just sort of create something, different like what you've done. That's how I sort of read it. But
okay, all right. Well, I think this is relevant to anybody who, because at the end of the day, what I've done is just have an idea and done something with it. Taken action on an idea. And I guess this is true for anybody who wants to start their own business and to be who's got entrepreneurial aspirations and has got that idea and wants to go out. Maybe you've had a health transformation yourself and just had this epiphany. Oh my goodness, I'm so compelled to get out there and I want to help others. So I guess the thing that you just need to do is work out what your thing is that you want to do and that you want to share with the world. Test it a little bit, test the waters, and then just go out there and do it, right? Because that's as simple as that. There's no magic bullet formula. Oh, if you do this, this, and this, then you'll be cool. And don't even worry about, starting legally. Like I started totally illegally. I didn't even know you needed to get council approval to make food in the kitchen, right? It's like, oh, really? Do I? Okay. So, but you don't end up in prison for just being genuinely in the dark on things. And I think that, especially as women starting our own business, we've got a huge fear about getting into trouble, right? And that has always been my thing. You're going to do something wrong. You're going to get into trouble. You can't put that on Facebook. Someone's going to tell you off. And my biggest one, you're going to get sent back to England. They'll kick you out of Australia. So I think just expect all of those fears to come up because it's so primal, right? Your body's just protecting you because you've survived this far without starting your own business. It's a bit of a risk. You might end up dead if you start your own business. That's what your primal brain's thinking. And everyone's going to hate you. You'll get kicked out the tribe and all the things that could go wrong. Whereas really, I think if you just have that awareness, right, I'm going to meet these fears. This is what's going to come up, but I'm just going to push through anyway. And to get around a really awesome, like-minded group of people who get it, like there's that saying, don't share your $1 million idea with $10 people, right? Because there are so many people, even like professional people, like accountants and solicitors, when I told them, I've got this baking business and I want to share it with other mums and other women who are on a health journey, the amount of people that went, right, that's a good idea. Like you see them like I think you're not buying this, you're not buying into my dream. And so I think to, get with people who get it, because if too many people tell you that's a stupid idea, you won't do it. So find out your thing, make sure it's a thing and it works and it's viable. With things like pricing, I don't mean getting your brand colors right and stuff like that, but pricing, make sure it's worth your while. Because as women, we do tend to undercharge because we want to be nice to everyone, and real healthy things should be free for everyone. It should be accessible for everyone, right? But at the end of the day, you got to make some money. Otherwise, it's a hobby, not a business, right? So find out your thing, test your thing, be ready for all of the doubts and fears and the naysayers. It's part of the territory. And 3, find your tribe. Find people like you who get it. Maybe get yourself into a mastermind. You could just connect with some people in this community and say, hey, who here is thinking about starting a business? Shall we get together, 3 or 4 of us, and kind of be accountability sisters for each other? So does that answer the question? I hope so. Hope that helps.
I think so. It's awesome. Love what you say about money, because it's something that, I've struggled with ever since I started my own business, 100%. You want to help people, but at the same time, it is that whole, I don't know. Is it a female thing? I don't know. Men are different to that. They just charge money. I don't know.
It's been tested that men have got. It's just the way that men are socialized. So men are more socialized to be able to say what they want comfortably, whereas women, we feel like, we can't really ask for what we want because all those things that we get said. I want, never gets. You get what you get. You don't get upset. All of that. Share. You've got to share everything. Share. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. And then it's just just knowing that that's normal. And even my producers, they come on board and everyone's trying to give stuff away. I know we have to all charge the same. All the pricing's already worked out. But here, have these cookies as well. I'm like, no, you're taking money away from yourself. So it's very normal.
Yeah. Brenda, did you want to add something there?
It's just that whole idea that you're being judged if you are asking people for money. I'm thinking, will they think that's good value? Is it too expensive? Maybe it's too cheap and they will not respect what you're doing. It's really, really tough to get your head around because there's all that emotion attached to an invoice. And, I think as time goes on, we get more confident. But at the beginning, oh, my God, I'm just doing everything for free.
Yeah, I think that's normal too. There's a really awesome Australian money coach called Denise Duffield Thomas. So if anybody, I've just finished doing her money bootcamp. It's amazing. She's got a couple of books. One's called Get Rich Lucky Bitch. And the other one, you won't forget that title. And the other one's called Chillpreneur. And they're so good. It's just, all of these fears that you think, oh my God, it's only me that thinks that, it's all laid out. And she gives really actionable tips to have that awareness and overcome them. Because at the end of the day, the world needs women like you who are doing good things in the world with money.
Awesome. I'm going to check her out. Awesome. Thank you for that.
She's great. I've seen her speak. Yeah.
Oh, have you? I've never heard of her. Okay, awesome. And where is Brenda's? So Brenda, your question. Let's get to that one. Thank you for your talk with your daughter. I heard quite a few comments from people coming just to let you know they loved watching you two together. Thought you were just so fabulous together, and so unique.
Thank you.
Thank you. A mum and a daughter sharing something that is so real and so common. So thank you to Tess. Pass that on to her, please.
I certainly will.
She said, this lady said, my daughter has PCOS, but is not dealing with the lifestyle change. I've suggested smaller changes, but she's still not interested. And, you know, as a mum, we're all like, oh, when they don't want to listen. But, of course, it's very, very difficult. But this lady just wanted to know, did you have any other tips on what I could do for her?
Yeah. The only thing, she doesn't mention how old her daughter is, does she, Trace?
No, she doesn't. Sorry.
So
she's listening, she might be able to add. But it's funny, a lot of the questions just come by email because I think people find that, you know, again, contracting to put it in public.
So this is one of my worst nightmares, is when you are aware of the diagnosis, you know what needs to be done, but they're not remotely interested. And I find this, in my experience, has been the group of girls primarily that are like 15 to 20. By the time they get a little bit older and a little bit more independent and perhaps have left home, it can change. So those who are not interested in making changes at all, either number one, are not very symptomatic. So you may have the diagnosis, but perhaps they haven't started to put on a lot of weight, or they're not having issues with a lot of hair growth. Perhaps they are menstruating, maybe not frequently, but occasionally, and they're not really aware that there's too much that makes them different from their peers, because it's an interesting idea that we as mothers, I think, are super powerful until the peer gets in the way. And that peer group seems, well, in my experience, starts at about 16, 17 and 18. For me, Tess was moving into year 11. So she was with a whole lot of dance buddies. She was probably spending an awful lot of money on hair removal cream. She had never had a period, which her peers were more or less saying, oh, you're so lucky. And then it was just about the acne, et cetera, et cetera. And because I was in a situation where I was controlling the food, that really wasn't an issue either. So for those girls that I know whose mums have said to me they won't embrace any lifestyle change at all, it's a little bit of a personality thing on the kid's part. Tess was feeling very unwell a lot of the time and couldn't really keep up with her peers. So she knew there was something going on. So she was really happy to embrace the small changes that we did. However, with the rest of my family, it was a matter of saying to them, this is what we need to do for Tess, and we're all going to do it together, so that she's not in a position where she's saying, I can't have that, I can't have that, I can't have that, because it all revolves around the food. That's where the issues mainly come from. They don't want to embrace the change. I find that teenage kids, girls in particular, they tend to be pretty good at moving. At school in particular, maybe after school, that all falls away. But at school, they do tend to be involved in either dance or netball or other forms of sport. But the food thing is a huge issue. So what I've done on a couple of occasions with clients of mine, I've just said to the mum, you have to start this. You have to be the role model. You've got to embrace it. So you eat low carb. You get out every morning and go for your walk. You make a point of starting your own transformation, and don't brag about it. It will be super obvious how well you do, how well you feel, how good you look. And eventually they will come to the party. They will want to get involved. I do remember at one stage too, I invested in a couple of Tessa's girlfriends. I actually had a coffee with them and I said, I really need you to help me with this. And they were fantastic because, of course, they didn't know. These kids, they keep it a secret. They don't want to share about, the fact that they're putting on a couple of kilos, or they will just hope no one notices. So in some ways you do have to be a bit of a detective and try and sort of sneak your way in the back door. I know one of the things that I've done recently for a client is I got her a loaf of, can you see that? That's the Aldi low carb alternative. I don't know whether you've all seen it, but you get 2 slices of this for under 5 grams of carbohydrate. For a teenage kid, this is gold. They can still eat bread. But I just said to her, that looks too weird, so take the bread out and put it in a packet of something else that they're familiar with and just cheat, so that eventually you can say, well, you've been eating this for 3 months now, so, get over it. But I've got a lot of very devious ways of getting
I can see.
teenage girls low carb without them really knowing it. And then I figured what they spend and what they do in their own time when you're not around is minimal. It's minimal. It's what you're putting on the table and what they're getting out of the fridge and the pantry most of the time is what's going to be a deal breaker for them. So yeah, just turn into, a real mother.
Yeah. Wow, some great tips there, because teenage girls, I've got one, and yeah, they're challenging. And I think you do have to be creative, and I think to keep the door open, keep the relationship going. Number one, you want them to come to you when they're ready. When she is ready to change, she want,
exactly.
You still want that relationship to be there.
Yes, the more you say, no, you can't have, the more they will run. So it's more about, hey, look at all this fabulous stuff we're eating now, and have a go at it from that perspective.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Brenda. So, Leah, moving on to more little kids. The question was asked, how do you handle kids and birthday parties? Any tips on the sugar and the fun that goes with that?
Well, you might find my answer a little controversial, but so long as we're not dealing with allergies or food sensitivities, I say let them go, let them enjoy the food, and don't make a big deal about it, because like Brenda was just saying, you make a big deal about it and it's going to cause a lot of revolt and rebellion when you get older. I know particularly myself, I was definitely like that. If someone said to me, no, you can't have it, I was like, well, I'm going to have it. But the important thing to do is to do the groundwork with it. So making sure they're eating correctly at home, eating the right foods, eating real foods, educating them about how sugar can make them feel, and then just seeing what happens when you do put them in that situation. I have that example of my son who was at a Christmas party, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, is that your child under the table with the whole plate of cupcakes? And I was like, no, that wouldn't be my little paleo child. No. And he got a tummy ache from it and he felt sick. And so we talked about that. I said to him, like, when you eat to excess and you're eating this sugar, how does that make you feel? And he's like, it hurts my tummy. And are we going to do that again? No, we're not going to do that again. And, even times after that, he'd be like, oh, those cupcakes over there, Mummy, at the next party we go to, I'm not going to eat so many as I did last time because that hurt my tummy. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. So I think that education and empowering them and giving them the tools to know about food and about how food can make them feel, whether it can make them feel low energy, sore tummy, or it can make them feel good and make them feel great. And these types of food gives me energy, will help them make better choices going forward, rather than saying, no, you can't do this. You must do exactly what I'm saying, because I know that's just going to end up for heartbreak.
Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Yes, go Kelly.
Leah, I love how you just connected food with the way how you feel, but you didn't connect it with emotion. And so it wasn't like I'm happy when I eat a cupcake. So you connected it with actually like a sore tummy, or maybe when you said great or something, I took that as I feel great because I got loads of energy from eating my veggies or whatever it might be. But so that was awesome. But something that I do with my little one, because he's starting to go to parties now, is I feed him up just before we go. And so even if it's on the car ride there, and I don't tell him like I'm feeding him up, I just give him really satiating food. So I'll give him like avo or egg or nuts or something like that, and I'll just feed him up. So when we get to the party, then I like you say, Leah, I don't say anything. I let him choose what he wants to eat, and I'll help him eat it, and then just take what he doesn't want. But I feel when I fill him up, I feel better because I know he's loaded up with the good stuff, and then he doesn't have as much room for all the other bits and pieces. And if he wants the other bits and pieces, he can have them. And just trying to maintain that positive relationship with food, which, I feel, Leah, you do really well.
Thank you. And I agree with you. That's a great idea. I used to feed mine up before we went when they were little as well. But as they get older, I think they pretty much know your tricks.
I know.
But I think while you were saying that, another great tip too is just let them, choose a plate of food as well and take that plate. And it's the same with adults as well. Like, you don't need to stand around the food table, and you don't need to keep coming back for more and more. Just grab one plate. This is your plate of food from the choices that you've made on the table, and that's yours to have. You don't need to go back for any more of that. I find that is a really good method for adults and children as well.
Adults as well, yes.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I'm conscious of the time, so I've only a couple more questions. Kelly, this is a double whammy that was for you on your topic, which was all about fat. Why is the fat makes us fat message still so pervasive, and can you overeat fat?
Okay, cool. Lovely. I'll try and answer that nice and quickly. So why is it still so pervasive? I guess we all know the research, but if you think about it, when the first time that we were told that fat makes you fat or fat leads to heart disease, that was from essentially Dr. Ansel Keys, which was way back in the 50s. So now we're 70 years in of being told that fat makes you fat. Fat's going to give you heart disease. Fat will have all of these really negative effects in your life when you eat any amount of fat. So you need to reduce the fat immediately. And so we've all of us here, and then our parents and our grandparents have been brought up with that message from a very young age that fat makes you fat. And when it's been said enough times, you don't need to look at the research. It becomes as a truth in your mind. You don't question it. And so now for all of us going forward and saying, no, actually, let's look at the research and let's see, does fat make you fat, and does it give you heart disease, or should we eat fat? Does it have benefits? When we're starting to kind of question what everybody already knows, and we're going exactly against what everyone thinks, then it does take a lot of time for people to come around. Like, I do group sessions where I can do like 6 to 8 sessions, where we'll talk about fat like at the start and then throughout the sessions, and even still at the end, like you're just starting to turn some people around where they go, okay, like maybe I'll try a little bit of fat in my diet. And so it takes a long time, like a whole lifetime being told one message, and then one consult with one of us and we're saying, no, hey, eat fat. And they're like, no, thank you. You're a bit weird. Like, I'm not going to do that. So the other thing I just say with people who are quite hesitant with that is do it as an experiment and see how you go. And when you're eating more fat, see how you're feeling, and like have more fat, reduce the carbohydrates. If you love it, stick with it. If you hate it, go back to your old ways. And pretty much when you increase the fat, you feel so awesome that no one goes back to their old ways. Well, pretty much no one. No one that's admitted it to me yet. In regards to overeating fat, that's another really great question. So I think you can force yourself to overeat anything, really. And so you do need fat in the diet, but it's very hard to overeat fat when it's such a satiating nutrient. And so when you're consuming fat, it's filling you up. When you're consuming carbs, it fills you up for a short period of time and then leaves you hungry again really, really soon after, and you get all of those cravings. So what you find at the beginning, and especially for the people who are quite skeptical or critical of this, is that they'll increase their fat intake, but they'll leave their carbohydrate intake quite high as well. And then they go, oh no, this doesn't work, I'm putting on weight, or nothing's working, I don't feel any better. But what you have to do is, once you got that balance, you then have to bring your carbs right down and either push your fat up a bit more, or if you're needing more protein, push that up a bit more. So then you're tipping the scales. And when you're able to do that, you're going to really, really struggle to overeat fat. So can you overeat fat? The short answer, yes, you can overeat anything, but you're going to struggle to overeat fat, whereas it's really, 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 really easy to overeat carbohydrates.
Yeah, there's just no off switch. That's the way I look at it in the brain. With carbs, it's just, you can just go and go and go, and always find that third stomach for dessert or whatever. But, for a steak, well, not so much.
Exactly.
The fat thing was so interesting. I remember when I first first came into all of this nearly 7 years ago, and it took me a long time, I reckon a couple of years, to be comfortable. Every time I would put some butter in the pan and cook the kids' sausages or something, I really did have that voice saying, what are you doing? What are you doing to your kids, feeding them this? It just took time, I think, for that to quieten down. And obviously, the longer you go, and the more you see the benefits, and the more you read, the more you learn, that does quieten down. But it is hard in the beginning, and that's okay. Like anything new, it's going to be challenging. Your old habits are going to come up, the old knowledge is going to come up, but yeah, giving it that time to allow for that change is really important. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think also during that transition time, to not be too hard on yourself and to measure things other than your weight is really important. Measuring those energy levels, or I get people to measure their cravings, and I just ask a simple question: how many times a day or a week or whatever it might be, generally a day, how many times a day are you getting cravings for like sweet foods? And get them to rate it, and get them to do circumference measurements and all those other measurements. And then after maybe like 2 weeks or maybe 4 weeks, depending how hard they're going with it, like how fast they're transitioning, get them to reevaluate that. And in some cases, I don't measure the weight at all. Like, you only do all of these other lovely measures. And then they're like, oh, wow, like, I have improved so much. And then, they get really happy, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. All right, we're going to wrap it up now just with a final question for all of you. And that was, what are your top tips overall, Helen, for, your healthy lifestyle?
Oh, that's a good question. Top tips for overall healthy lifestyle. Well, mine would be, you've got to keep it deprivation free. Just as Brenda was saying before, when you tell whether it's your daughter or whether you're telling it to yourself, you can't have that, you can't have that. It's just instant. Your brain's just, that's what I want. If you say, you can't eat chocolate anymore, it's just like chocolate. So you need to find a way to keep it deprivation free, and find alternatives to the things that you love. So whether it's, for me, it's a coffee. I used to have you'll laugh at this, skinny flat white. Sometimes there's a skinny mocha with one sugar. So it was like literally just a sugar bomb. You could barely taste any coffee. And just like refining that to now, which is a cashew milk flat white. With the cashew milk is literally just cashews and water, and it's activated, so you still got the coffee, you've still got that kind of, thing, you're not missing out. But it's a very different macronutrient and lot less toxic coffee. And it's just about finding certain things like that. So keeping it deprivation free is key. Think about it as long term, because I think we can all accept we've been brought up with a diet mentality of like really going really hard Monday to Friday and then just blowing it all at the weekend. And I think when you talk about dieting as a verb and not a noun, as in, so a verb is being on a diet, and the noun is what you actually eat, right? Just a diet. Then it can be really hard to not get that mentality and to be like, right, I'll start again on Monday. Oh no, I've had some birthday cake, I'm off the wagon, you know. Whereas really, if you think about this as like a long term, like for the rest of your life, it's like, could I eat this way every week? And there's not birthdays every week. So when, like, you know, it's like when your kids are going to birthday parties, like for years and centuries and decades back in primal times, we've always had feasts and parties and celebrations, and that's part of being human. And you need to be able to go to those things and let your hair down, have a fat time, but that's not how you eat every day, right? So keeping it deprivation free and keeping it something that's not too hard, that you can quite happily eat for the rest of your life, so you don't feel like you're being deprived, you don't feel like you're missing out. Because I think, you just show of hands, eating this way is so much more bloody tasty than eating that way without the fat, right? Everything's so much more tasty with your fat. I'm not missing out on anything. Thank you very much. So yeah, that would be it essentially from me.
Beautiful. Thanks, Helen. What about you, Leah?
Yeah, I just like to say empower yourself. So the knowledge is all at your hands, and trust in your innate intelligence. The body is a marvelous machine that will do anything in its power to please you. And so tapping into that innate intelligence and just trusting that the body knows what it needs to do to make you well. And if you empower yourself and do the right things, the body will work as it needs to work.
Beautiful. Love it. I love it. Kelly.
Amazing. I would, and I always say this, is sustainability. So whatever changes you're making, make sure that it's sustainable. It's very much what Helen was saying, but just make sure that whatever you're doing, it's sustainable throughout the years. Your children can do it. You can do it, not just for 3 months, but ongoing. So sustainability. If it's not sustainable, if you're hating it, make a change, find something, find another way to bring health into your life, like through another dietary tactic. But yeah, make sure your changes are sustainable.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kelly. And Brenda, wrapping it up for us.
Oh, you've got
No pressure.
You've got the oldie coming last. I think I've been very, very lucky in my life, because I'm very inquisitive, very curious naturally. And if I don't like what's happening in my life, I'm very pro change. But I'm also aware the opposite is probably the norm. How many of my clients will look in the mirror every day and hate what they see, but don't ever want to make a change? So I'm just like always saying, do a little bit of homework. What is it that you're not liking? Is it that you don't sleep well? And by the time you get to my age, sleep can be an issue for a lot of women. They're so sleep deprived. Is it sleep? Is it the way you look? Is it the way you feel in your clothes? Is it the way you feel in your body? Find a way to make a change, like Kelly said, that it is sustainable. Even small changes can make a huge difference. I mean, I'm low carb for life because now I can say I'm the strongest, the fittest, and the leanest and the happiest that I've been in my life. So I'm not going back anytime soon to eating a carbohydrate, maybe a piece of dark chocolate, maybe some blueberries, maybe a glass of red wine. There's no need for those things to go out the window, but make the change, go for it. Be
Beautiful.
happy.
Be happy. That's it. Just be happy. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time to be a part of the summit, for your time today. It's been such a pleasure. I've just loved it, and I love the relationships that I have with all of you. And let's just keep talking and keep putting it all out there. And yeah, thank you all so much.
Lovely.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Tracy. Goodbye.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy. Bye.
Bye.